In 1988, carbon dating dismissed the Shroud of Turin as a medieval forgery. But how could a 14th century artist encode three-dimensional data that requires 14,000 modern lasers to replicate today? In this video, we're going to uncover why the forgery hypothesis is collapsing under the weight of high-energy physics, advanced hematology, and forensic pathology. You will see how the raw data points to a mechanism that defies every known naturalistic explanation. We will examine bloodstains preserved for centuries by stress-induced bilirubin. Bilirubin is a chemical compound released into the human bloodstream during periods of intense physical torture, and its presence acts as a permanent preservative for the red color of hemoglobin. In a 2022 X-ray study that anchors this cloth squarely within the 1st century. It is a data set so complex it may serve as a permanent physical witness to the reported resurrection. But first we have to understand the exact moment forensic science was turned upside down by a single photographic negative. Let's dive in.
Analysis of the Shroud of Turin reveals the most intensely studied physical dataset in forensic history. Modern understanding of the cloth changed when the first photographs revealed properties hidden from the naked eye for centuries. The surface holds a faint, blurry smudge of a human figure, but on a photographic negative, the cloth yields a mathematically perfect, highly detailed full-body image. The linen itself is acting as a photographic negative. Decoding how this image was formed requires an analysis that extends beyond standard archaeology, intersecting with forensic pathology, high-energy physics, and advanced hematology. The physical evidence presents a contradiction. The bodily fluids and trauma markers recorded on the linen align with the execution protocols of a 1st-century Roman crucifixion, yet the mechanism that created the image defies standard physical explanations. To understand the origin of the shroud, we must evaluate the cloth strictly on its biological and biophysical evidence, discarding assumptions to follow the raw data. The dominant public narrative surrounding the shroud was set in 1988, when a radiocarbon dating test declared the cloth a medieval forgery from the 14th century. This conclusion implies that a medieval artist possessed a flawless understanding of 20th century forensic pathology, cardiovascular fluid dynamics, and molecular biomechanics. We can test this medieval forgery hypothesis by checking it against the hard biological and physical barriers recorded on the linen. If a single data point on the cloth requires a mechanism unknown in the 14th century, the forgery hypothesis loses its scientific foundation. Medieval artwork maintains a strict historical conformity when depicting crucifixions. The execution nails are universally shown driven through the palms of the hands. Modern biomechanics show that this method is physically unsustainable. Human flesh and the metacarpal bones in the palm cannot support the weight of a suspended human body. The nails would tear through the hand. This 3D wireframe model of a human hand and wrist illustrates exactly where the wounds are located on the shroud's image, a gap known as the space of Destot. This anatomical opening is situated between the carpal bones. A nail driven through this specific cluster creates a solid internal anchor, utilizing the skeletal structure to hold a human being's full body weight. The victim's thumbs are missing from view. When a spike penetrates the space of Destot, it damages the median nerve. This neurological trauma triggers an involuntary retraction of the thumb, folding it sharply inward against the palm. This autonomic physiological reaction was unknown to medical science during the Middle Ages. Its presence on the cloth indicates the image is derived from an actual crucifixion victim rather than an artistic rendition.
If you don't want to miss out on any future deep dives on this channel, please join us by subscribing and hitting that notification bell.
The physiological record continues on the right side of the chest, which bears a prominent elliptical post-mortem injury. This diagram of a human chest cavity shows the specific fluid dynamics recorded by the bloodstains on the cloth. The fluid flow exiting the wound consists of both heavy red blood cells and a separate clear, watery liquid. Forensic pathologists identify this exact separation as pleural effusion. Pleural effusion is a physiological condition where clear fluid gathers around the lungs in response to severe traumatic shock and asphyxiation. The blood itself presents a chemical anomaly. Human blood turns black or dark brown as it ages and oxidizes, but the stains on the shroud have remained remarkably reddish-brown for centuries. Spectroscopic analysis of the stains detected extremely high levels of bilirubin. Bilirubin is a chemical compound released into the human bloodstream during periods of intense physical torture, and its presence acts as a permanent preservative for the red color of hemoglobin. The linen preserves a biologically consistent record of trauma, post-mortem fluid separation, and chemical stress reactions. The findings align with the reported sequence of a brutal scourging followed by a post-mortem spear thrust. The blood provides the most critical chronological anchor for the forensic sequence. The blood was deposited onto the linen before the image was formed, acting as a physical mask that blocked the image creation process beneath it. In 1976, researchers analyzed the cloth using a VP8 image analyzer. A VP8 image analyzer is a specialized instrument designed to translate the image density, the lights and darks of a picture, into vertical physical relief. When you scan a standard painting or a normal photograph through a VP8, the resulting output is a distorted, unrecognizable jumble of random visual spikes. When researchers scanned the shroud, the analyzer produced an anatomically perfect, natural three-dimensional topographical map of a human body. This topographical map rendering shows what happens when image density contains distance-encoded data. The shading on the cloth is mathematically proportionate to the microdistance the linen was from the physical body it covered. Even areas where the cloth didn't touch the body, like the recessed gaps over the eye sockets, successfully encoded an image across empty space. Because the image contains precise 3D data and formed across microscopic spatial gaps, the evidence is inconsistent with physical contact methods like painting, rubbing, or the transfer of chemical vapors. Zooming down to the microscopic level reveals the extreme superficiality of the image. This microscopic cross-section of a linen thread demonstrates that the image does not soak into the fabric. The discoloration exists solely on the primary cell wall of the fibers, a layer only 200 to 600 nanometers thick. The only scientifically replicated method capable of creating this specific ultra-thin discoloration is vacuum ultraviolet radiation. Vacuum ultraviolet, or VUV, is an intense high-energy form of electromagnetic light that alters atomic bonds superficially. Replicating this effect across a full-sized human form would require a massive energy output. It would demand the simultaneous operation of 14,000 excimer lasers. Furthermore, this multi-billion watt burst of light would have to occur in roughly 1/1000th of a second, without generating thermal heat. If heat were present, it would have instantly vaporized the burial cloth. The image is the signature of a directional radiant energy emission from a human corpse, a phenomenon for which there is currently no known naturalistic mechanism. We must reconcile this data with the 1988 radiocarbon test. The validity of any carbon-14 test relies entirely on the extraction of a representative sample. This schematic of the entire shroud highlights a flaw in the 1988 protocol. The single sample was extracted from the extreme edge of the fabric, the exact corner most handled, repaired, and contaminated over centuries of display. Later chemical analyses proved that this specific corner was molecularly distinct from the main body of the cloth, containing medieval cotton and vanillin compounds not found anywhere else on the artifact. In 2022, researchers deployed a modern dating technique called wide-angle X-ray scattering, or WAX. WAX is a method that analyzes the structural aging of materials using focused X-ray beams. Instead of measuring unstable carbon isotopes, WAX peers directly into the fabric to measure the natural degradation of the cellulose crystallinity over time. The results showed that the molecular degradation of the shroud matches a known baseline linen artifact dated between 55 and 74 AD, recovered from the siege of Masada. When the sampling error is corrected and the core molecular structure is analyzed, The temporal data re-anchors the cloth squarely in the 1st century. The final forensic paradox concerns the state of the body inside the tomb. There is a total absence of natural decomposition. Forensic pathology dictates that a body wrapped in a linen cloth for more than 40 hours will release ammonia gases and leave active putrefaction stains. The shroud contains none of these markers. Within the humid environment of a tomb, drying blood acts as a powerful adhesive. If a cloth is unwrapped or pulled away from a body, the dried clots will smear, tear, and permanently disrupt the fabric fibers. The blood clots on the shroud feature sharp edges and undisturbed serum halos. The physical evidence indicates the cloth was never physically peeled away from the wounds. To account for this, biophysicists hypothesize a state of mechanical transparency. The body transitioned into a form that allowed it to pass directly through the cloth without disrupting the weave, causing the linen to collapse into the empty space. This mathematical matrix tracks the Barbarese probability model, which calculates the exact odds of all these specific historical and physical anomalies converging on one random crucifixion victim. The result is 1 in 200 billion. Science is not equipped to prove a miracle. But by eliminating known artistic and naturalistic explanations, it leaves us with an artifact that serves as a permanent physical witness to the reported resurrection.